All right, so I'm going to do a very quick recap of the formulas that we went over in class today. The first one is total change in distance, and this is sometimes called displacement. From A to B. And so this integral looks like this: A to B, V of t, dt. Okay, I'm just going to sketch a tiny graph, right, where you've got things that are above the axes, you've got things that are below, and that's just what it is. And this is our velocity graph. Okay, the second formula we did was total distance traveled from A to B. Okay? And this integral looks like this. Okay? Sketch a little graph here, but this time we're going to do the absolute value. And so that turns everything positive. Okay. Total distance traveled. Okay. So then we have a different formula, and this one is the initial condition. And that's where you take an initial point and you add the change to it. The change from A to B, okay? Change in position equals. All right, so keep in mind here that position, velocity, acceleration. Position, velocity, acceleration. This is your final point, right? That's your end point. Things you need to be aware of with this formula. Notice that it's kind of like two parts make a whole. It's important that these values match up. Okay. There you go. Now, this is not a new formula. This is the fundamental theorem rearranged. Yeah, it is. Watch this. So fancy. A to B, V of t dt equals the antiderivative of B minus the antiderivative of A. This initial position piece is just added to the other side. This is still an algebra type class. You can rearrange things to fit your needs. So this is the initial condition, which is just fundamental theorem rearranged. That's why it's important that these two numbers here, A and B, match those antiderivatives, A and B, right there. All right, now the fourth and final formula that we didn't get to talk about too much, I'm going to go ahead and flip my page here, is average velocity. Okay, from your previous math classes, your average is usually, okay, total distance over total time. Okay, look at your units. This would be, let's say, meters or miles. And this could be seconds. So we'll say meters per second. Notice the units. It's a distance unit over a time unit. Right? Here, we're looking at the total distance divided by the total time. For example, let's do words first. I drove from Fairfax to Vienna in rush hour. Yeah, terrible idea. Right? It took 45 minutes. Okay? And I only and I only ended up 10 miles away. Okay, what is my average velocity? So average velocity is how far did you travel, right? How far away did you end up? 10 miles over 45 minutes. Okay, now we can do 45 minutes or we could do 10 miles over 0.75 hours. It just depends upon the units that you want to use, but that is your average velocity. So this one is 10. That one doesn't really make too much sense. I'm going to do this one. 10 divided by 0.75 equals 7.5 miles per hour. That's about right. You're going pretty slow. A lot of stop and start there. Okay. Now, what would this formula look like? Total distance. All right, so total change in distance from A to B velocity dt over total time. Well, this is your change in distance from A to B. So you have to divide by that. Now, a lot of times the formula actually looks like this. Right? Because it's easier to look at it in this format, but it's the same. I want you to pay attention to the units. The top units are miles, right? Because position, velocity, acceleration. When you go backwards from velocity, you get distance. Notice here the B and the A are the time values. And so here we get hours, which means the units are velocity units. That's why this is the average velocity formula. Average velocity formula. Last formula, very similar. Average speed. Oh, okay. Average speed. Total distance traveled over total time. All right, so that would be from A to B, V of t dt, right? Total distance traveled over total time. Sometimes, right, it's easier to write it with the B minus A in front. But be careful here. Okay, most of the time we're asking about average velocity, but I want you to know that average speed is a thing also. And the units work out the same way. All right, I will see you next class where we will continue practicing this.